I am
Just let me
having
know
some
when
issues.
No, it says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube on our end, so. Or at least my end it is.
Carol, Chris, just let me know when you're good to go on your end.
I think we're all set.
Okay.
Chris, I transferred host to Carol, so I can't see the recording. I had paused it when we first came on, so can you just make sure it's going?
Sure.
Okay. All right. And then Sean, Carol, Chris, when you guys are watching, who's in the waiting room?
Yes, just let me know when you want them entered.
Okay. All right. Okay. Members, are you ready? Thumbs up. Good. Come on my board. There we go. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight for tonight's Board of Selectmen meeting here, Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, via Zoom, per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The public will not be allowed to physically access this Board of Selectmen meeting. Public comments and questions may be submitted to the board in advance of the meeting by completing the Google form prior to the meeting by Tuesday, February 15th, 2022 by 4:30 p.m. Also, the meeting will be broadcast live via Seekonk Cable TV 9, streamed live on TV 9's Facebook, and streamed live on the Town of Seekonk's YouTube channel. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 20F requires any person recording must notify the chairman at the beginning of the meeting. Seeing none, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would somebody please read the board and committee openings?
Mr. Chairman, volunteers are needed on the following boards and committees. Board of Health, 1 Board of Selectmen appointment. Capital Improvement Committee, 1 Board of Selectmen, 1 moderator. Commission on Disability, 5 of 13, Board of Selectmen. Conservation Commission, 1 Board of Selectmen. Department of Public Works Building Committee, 2 moderator appointments. Economic Development Committee, 5 Board of Selectmen. Energy Committee, 2 Board of Selectmen. Historical Commission, 3 Board of Selectmen. Human Services Council, 1 Board of Selectmen. Recycling Committee, 2 Board of Selectmen. Zoning Board of Appeals, 2 alternates.
Okay, thank you. Community speaks. Do we have anybody in the audience this evening that wants to, if you can please either raise your hand using the raise your hand function if you're on Zoom, or I do believe it's #9, correct, Carol?
*9.
*9. Getting close. All right. I don't think I'm seeing anybody at this time. There was also nothing submitted through the Google Forms prior to the meeting. So let's go on to general business. Item A. Before we go forward, I'd like to just ask the board members here, as we have been doing the last few meetings, for the majority of the items here tonight, I would just like to call on one member to make the motion and another member to second the motion. I do understand that in the case of the public hearing for Patriot Way and the discussion for the HCA, somebody may want to, we'll have, you know, open that up for a little bit more liberty for other members to make motions and seconds. But I think, you know, for the most part tonight, if you guys are good with that, I'd like to assign, let's go with Mr. Zora, if you don't mind making the motion. Mr. Petronio, if you don't mind making the seconds. Okay, that way we can keep it clean and easy for everybody at home. So without further ado, item A, consider the appointment of Nicholas Rondo to the position of Dispatch Emergency Specialist. Ms. Wunschel.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and Mr. Kadim. On February 16th, I'm here tonight to request the board consider Dispatcher Nicholas Rondo for the Dispatch Specialist, Emergency Specialist position with the Town of Seekonk Public Safety Communications Department. Dispatcher Nicholas Rondo, a Seekonk resident, began his career with public safety communications in 2012, recently reaching his 10-year mark. He's been a voice on the radio waves, serving as a 911 dispatcher, receiving calls for service from the public and providing that information to Seekonk's first responders. Dispatcher Rondo has become a vital member of the communications unit, not limiting his knowledge strictly to dispatch, but enhancing his skill set with extensive proficiency in emergency radio communication, including the concept of interoperability. In addition, Dispatcher Rondo has successfully completed multiple courses and participated in workshops to continue his ability not only for everyday emergencies, but also FEMA-level disaster-type incidents. Dispatcher Rondo prides himself on possessing the most up-to-date knowledge of emergency radio communication and technology. In 2019, he was asked and recognized for this, requested to assist with the major upgrade project of the radio system to improve all public safety communications and to coordinate maintenance and programming of the radios for all 3 public safety agencies in Seekonk. It is at this time, I asked through Mr. Kadim that the board appoint Dispatcher Nicholas Rondo of Seekonk to dispatch emergency specialist position.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation is that we appoint Nicholas Rondo to the position of dispatch emergency specialist.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion, consider appointing Nicholas Rondo to the position of dispatch emergency specialist, effective immediately.
Seconded, Petronio.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Rosora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Thank you, Mr. Rondo. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Good luck.
And all those ICS classes to good use.
Yes. And thank you very much to everybody else as well.
Thank you. Okay, item B, consider the conditional offer of employment to Caitlin Marchand for the position of Planning Zoning Senior Secretary. Mr. Aubin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This evening, if I could, through Mr. Kadim, make a recommendation for Caitlin Marchand for the position of Planning and Zoning Senior Secretary. We conducted a second and a half, I guess, round of interviews with regard to the position. I know it's the 3rd time we've been here for a conditional appointment. Caitlin will be coming to us from the Swansea Water District. She has experience with public service and will be a good fit both personality and skill set wise for the department. At this time, I'd just like to reach out to Mr. Kadim as well as Carol for facilitating the process and keeping it moving along, even though we hit a few road bumps along the way. And hopefully this will be the final time I'm here on one of these for a little while.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation is that we offer a conditional offer of employment to Caitlin Marchand for the position of Planning Zone Senior Secretary.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadim, and I'm not sure, we didn't receive the usual form that we have to read for conditional offers like we've done in the past.
Let me see if I can quickly find that.
If you happen to have it, if you could just read that particular form.
Okay, so the motion would be that we appoint Caitlin Marchand to the position of Senior Secretary in Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals, subject to the conditioned upon successful passage as determined by the town administrator as follows: pre-employment background check, a Corey check, physical examination, drug screening, and completion of all pre-employment paperwork.
So
Okay.
move.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, roll call vote, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Chris Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Welcome, Ms. Marchand.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Good luck. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Robin. Item C, consider the retirement of Charles Ransom from the Seekonk Fire Department effective February 16th, 2022, after 36 years of service with the town. We have on here, Chief, okay, and then do I have a motion?
Chris,
Mr. Zora?
Make a motion, consider the retirement from Charles Ransom from the position of firefighter.
effective February 16th, 2022. Seconded, Adam Trina.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I think that we were going to have this in person once we come back to the meetings, but I wanted to say that the Seekonk Fire Department would like to extend our deepest gratitude for the dedicated service firefighter Ransom has displayed throughout his nearly 33-year career as a firefighter. Best wishes and happy retirement.
Happy
you.
retirement. Couldn't hang on that one extra month.
As does the town.
Thank you
Yes.
for a career well deserved.
I agree. Thank you for your service.
Okay. Thank you, firefighter Ransom. We're looking forward to recognizing your years of service in an in-person meeting coming up here when we can get back to that. But in the meantime, thank you very much for all that you've done for our town and the department. At this time, I'd like to take a roll call vote, please, starting with you, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Chris Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item D, consider the retirement of William Dallaire from the position of Seekonk Special Police Officer after 35 years of service, effective January 28th, 2022.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation from William Dallaire from the position of Special Officer, effective back on January 28th, 2002. 22.
2022.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Dallaire, thank you very much for all your service in 35 years as a special. That's truly commendable. So thank you very much and appreciate it.
Chairman Sullivan, just if I may quickly, this is Chief Isabella. I just wanted to
Sure, Chief.
reiterate what Chief Lowry has said, that when we're able to meet in person, we'd like to have a more formal presentation to Special Reserve Officer Dallaire, who's served admirably for 35 years, the Seekonk Police Department as a volunteer reserve officer. He's always been there for the town and always been there for the department, and we wish him the best in his retirement.
Thank you. Yes, that is the plan will be for not just firefighter Ransom, but Mr. Dallaire, and obviously coming up here, Mr. Roy as well. So as soon as we can get back in person, we certainly want to recognize the many years of service that they've given the town. So any other discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Healy, roll call, please.
Aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Chris Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item E, consider the retirement of James Roy from the position of Seekonk Special Police Officer after 35 years of service, effective January 28th, 2022. Chief, anything you want to
Yes.
add?
Just the same. Officer Roy has served admirably for 35 years. Actually, him and Billy Dallaire got on at the same time, and they're leaving at the same time. So came in together and they're going out together. Both served admirably for the town of Seekonk and the Seekonk Police Department, and we wish them all the best in the retirement.
Thank you. Do I have a
Make a mo-
motion?
Make a motion to accept the retirement of James Roy, effective January 28th, 2022.
Seconded, Adam Petrino.
Okay, any other discussion?
Be appropriate in, once we meet in person.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Roy, for your years of service as well. So we certainly appreciate it. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petrino, aye.
Zora, I.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item F, consider the retirement of Sharon Lynn Hall from the position of Animal Control Officer after nearly 13 years of service, effective March 4th, 2022. We have anybody else on? I don't think so. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the retirement of Sharon Lynn Hall as Animal Control Officer, effective March 4th, 2022.
Seconded, Adam Petrino.
Okay. I'd like to thank Ms. Hall for her years of service as the ACO, and appreciate all that she's done for the town and including the animal shelter as well. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Petrino, aye.
Zora, I.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item G, consider the resignation of Harrison McComb from the position of firefighter effective February 11th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Consider the resignation of Harrison McComb from firefighter, effective February 11th, 2022.
Seconded, Adam Petrino.
Roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petrino, aye.
Zora, I.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item H, town clerk lottery drawing for ballot positions for the upcoming election. Where are we? Ms. Craig?
Yes, all right. You all can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so all the nomination papers are back. Everything has been certified. We only have one race that has more candidates than seats, and that is the school committee. So I will begin the drawing for the ballot position for this race with a phone app, which we had done last year. So just bear with me a minute so I pull it up, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it. And I don't know, can you see that or not?
Let's see.
No,
No,
No.
not really focusing very well. No.
No,
the glare.
I think it has to do with the light. You might have to darken the phone.
darken the phone.
Brightness. And setting.
Let's see. I don't know, does that help? A little
It's
bit?
better.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, you'll be able to see it. I think once it turns on.
once it turns on.
Yeah, okay, so I just press a button and it goes to, it's a drawing, a lottery drawing, so, and the person's name will come up, so.
Yep, we can see.
Can you see it?
Yep,
Yep.
Andrea.
That was Andrea Rossiter, so that she'll be the first position. All right, let me write that down. All right. I don't have the sound effects this year. The
Emily
second one,
Field,
Emily
Emily
Field.
Field.
and this is for school committee.
This is for school committee, yes. All right. And that third
Kyle
one, is
Kyle.
Kyle. All right,
And
and the
fourth is
fourth one is, there's 2 seats and there's 4 people running.
Megan
that-
Mahoney.
Should be Megan Mahoney, yes.
Okay.
All right,
So, Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yes, Mr.
what's
Andre.
this is the first time we're doing it this way, and obviously it's because of Zoom. But what's the name? I don't recall hearing the name of the app that you're using to do this.
okay.
In
it
case
is-
anybody has any questions, since this has never been done before.
Oh,
We actually did
last-
it, we did it this way last year.
We did
We
it last
here
year.
too.
But the name of the
I
app is
don't
called
recall it,
Lucky.
but okay.
The name of the app is called Lucky Draw.
Lucky draw. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. No problem. And that's it. That's the only race that's,
Okay.
everybody else is just either one person or they're just being
Uncontested.
reelected, uncontested. So, yep,
There is a declared write-in, correct? I read in the paper. Is that still accurate?
that is
Yeah,
accurate.
Two of them.
There's
But
two of
Right.
them.
Oh,
Yeah,
two?
yeah,
But
one
that
for
would not
housing.
put them on the ballot, though.
Right, right.
No,
So-
no.
But it was
But-
worth mentioning. as it was
Yes,
in the
there's a
paper.
write-in for Housing Authority, James Sino for his seat. He just didn't have time to take out the papers. And Water Commission, yes. Jeffrey Mararian is a write-in.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay,
all right.
all right.
Well, thank you and good luck to
Thank you.
everybody.
Yes,
Good luck
thank
to
you
all the
very much.
candidates.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thanks, Ms. Craig.
You're welcome.
Okay. Item H, license hearing. Sean, do I need to open this now and then we continue it on to the March 2nd, or just
Yes.
make a motion out of the gate to continue it before opening and closing?
Yes, just clarifications, item I.
I'm sorry, item I.
So we would just need to open it and continue it to the March 2nd, 2022 date.
Okay,
We need a time specific as well.
okay. So can I have a motion to open license hearing to consider the request for a transfer of an off-premise all alcohol license for Arajo Liquors, Limited DBA Regency Liquors, 301 Taunton Ave, to Arajo Holdings, LLC, DBA Regency Liquors, Nuno Arajo to be manager, and we'll stay with that motion to open. Thank you.
It's a Rougeau Liquors and so
Rougeau,
moved.
sorry.
So
Second, Adam Tryon.
just a date, time, and place specific. So
We want to open and then have a motion to continue, correct?
Yep.
Right. So I have a motion and a second for opening this hearing at 6:22 PM. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Tryon, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Kristen Sullivan, aye. Can I have a motion to continue this hearing to March 2nd, 2022 at 6 PM?
So moved.
Zora, second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael
Chairman.
Healy, aye.
just before the roll call, that's going to be held via Zoom.
Via Zoom, yep. Thank you. All right, got Michael Healy, I got you. Yep.
Adam Tryon, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay, item J, license hearing. To consider the request for a change of officers, directors for Rare Hospitality International, Inc., DBA Longhorn Steakhouse, 80 Highland Ave. Do I have a motion to open this hearing at 6:23?
So moved.
Second, Adam Tryon. Did we need to close that other one?
No, because it's continued.
Just continued. Okay, excellent.
Roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Tryon, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
And Sullivan, aye. Okay, do we have the applicant on?
Good evening, Elizabeth Pisano from Upton, Connell, and Devlin on behalf of the applicant GMRI Inc. This is a change of officers application. We have Lindsay Corrin is replacing Joseph Kern as Vice President and Secretary, and Angela Simmons has replaced William White as Director, President, and Treasurer. And there are no operational changes at the restaurant, just this officer change.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant, Ms. Pisano? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close this hearing and then we'll take a vote to approve?
So moved. Make a motion to close the hearing. at 6:25 PM.
Seconded, Adam Petronio.
Roll call, please.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Brazora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
And Sullivan, aye. Do I have a motion to approve the change?
So moved. David Andrew.
Brazora, second.
Roll call, please.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Brazora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. All right, thank you, Ms. Pisano. You're all set.
Good night.
Okay, item K, consider the proposal, public hearing, consider the proposal and adoption of an order to lay out the roadway Patriot Way in accordance with the as-built plan and description. This was a continued public hearing, so do I have a motion to reopen this public hearing at 6:26?
Chairman, if I could just quickly, so originally the public hearing was held on October 20th. We had continued it to November 10th, and then there was another continuation to December 8th. However, we did not have a meeting on December 8th, so we were required to re-advertise and notify abutters, which we did. So this is technically a new public hearing, so it's just opening up a public hearing.
Okay, so thank you for that correction there. So do I have a motion to open this public hearing at 6:26?
So moved, Adam Petronio.
Second, Brazora.
Roll call, please. Mr. Healy?
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petronio, aye.
Brazora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay, who do we have with us tonight? We have Mr. Aubin. I see Miss Manaka. Is Mr. DeValley on by chance? I know he's got some things going, so. Mr. Aubin, do you have any background here that you'd like to update us with?
I just need,
Hi, Miss Manaka, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for reading my letter. I'm sorry I can't get in there, but pretty soon all this will be over. Nobody
Pretty-
wants it over more than me.
Pretty soon we'll all be meeting in person here.
I know. I think if you suggest June, that'll be good because like I said in my letter, the worst is yet to come and I'm hoping what he did will work. I'll leave that up to the board to decide, and I'm here if you need me. I'm not very good on this internet stuff, but you know my address, and I do love paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manaka. Mr. Aubin?
And Mr. Chairman, just by way of update, subsequent to the original October public hearing, there was some work done on the property in the rear of Mrs. Manaka's property. Essentially, a small swale was installed along the rear portion of the property. It was inspected, quote unquote. It wasn't based on any specific design or drainage calculations or anything like that, but the work was observed by GPI. They went out after it was completed, observed kind of what was put in place there. I believe the board has the email that was provided by Mr. Noyes from GPI. I know Mr. Abelson has gone out there a couple of times, at least subsequent to that. I think as far as where we are process-wise, I think it's a little bit tough right now, as Mrs. Manaka alluded to really make a fair assessment as to how that system, quote unquote, is going to operate as we move into spring. The only other thing I just wanted to note is that this doesn't impact or have any impact on the actual roadway or the functioning of the overall drainage system for the development itself. This is strictly to do with this specific lot, and the drainage will cross the back of the lots on the left-hand side of the roadway as you go in there.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yep, Mr. Andrade.
So as Mr. Aubin was just mentioning, if everyone recalls, at the original meeting, there was significant discussion about there was discussion, I should say, as to what we were actually there to approve, and Mrs. Manakia's concerns were brought up. And we proposed there was a resolution that we propose to have Mr. DeValley work with Mrs. Menachia. And I think if everyone looks at the email from November 24th, 2021, and reads what Mr. Noyes wrote, which is, assuming that Ms. Menachia is only concerned with the area enclosed by the vinyl fence, the area should dry out faster than before, as it appears that less runoff from the adjacent property will flow through this area. I mean, as Mr. Orban said, we've kind of done everything for the roadway, and there is no issues with the roadway, and that's really what the public hearing was for. And it looks like what was attempting to be addressed it has been addressed based on GPI's email.
Okay. Do any members have any other questions or comments? No. So, all right. Yeah, I think there was also some question, and Mr. Aubin, perhaps you could answer this, because I know in having read Ms. Menachia's email as well and some of the residual issues. Am I to understand here that some of these other issues are potentially due to what's going on at the lot next door as well, that are not in control of Mr. DeValley, or?
I just think in general, and as we heard back in October, and as the planning board heard, as we're kind of going through this issue with the review of the acceptance, that area is somewhat it's a very gentle slope as it goes down Brady Way, and the area of Mrs. Menachia's backyard is actually a flatter portion. One of the things that we did do is get spot elevations, and I think it was referenced in some of the materials that I provided the board back in October, that documented, what that slope was. Granted, it was somewhat slight, but it was on a downward slope from the lot 1 on the upper side to below Mrs. Menachia's lot. And again, I've described that area in general as it's really a situation of, folks kind of pushing water around in a bathtub. And I think what was done by Mr. DeValley to provide a swale across the back of the property can only help that situation and get that water from one side on lot 1 to the other side of Mrs. Menachia's lot, and ultimately down through the development and as it was designed to do.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we also ask, and obviously because of the change of the season when we were trying to bring resolution to all this, it wasn't a good time of year to do so, but I think all that was left for Mr. DeValley to do after he took care of this situation was, I guess, throw down some seed or, some plantings or something. Was that part of that discussion as well? Do I recall that correctly?
Yeah, and again, it's a difficult time of the season to really kind of assess how that's doing right now. One thing I would note, notwithstanding this acceptance process, there's still surety held that needs to be released at the end of the process by the planning board. So notwithstanding what action the board may take, the planning board is still involved in the project and will still have to release that final surety. So it's obviously not as much of, from Mrs. Menachia's perspective, as much leverage as the roadway acceptance, but it's certainly still a process that has to be gone through. And, certainly she's more than welcome to participate in that process as well as we move forward to that, notwithstanding what happens this evening or at town meeting.
Okay. All right. Are there any other members have any other input here? Are you ready to make a decision and move forward with this? Mr. Zora?
Mr. Orban, so you're saying that the planning board will still hold Mr. DeValley accountable until he corrects that problem with those 2 lots?
Well, I think it's a question of, one, what is is there an existing problem there? I think GPI has indicated that the work was done, should resolve the issue. Certainly making sure that, that grass seeding that was done, takes hold and is something that we can look at. But again, this isn't work that's tied to the public improvements associated with that development. This is somewhat kind of outside that. And I mentioned that surety reduction process as another public process that we're in. I don't have a line item in the construction cost estimate for grading of all the residents' backyards. It's not something that the planning board has surety. At some point that gets between the developer and the private property owner.
Because it has nothing to do with the roadway or with the improvements.
Correct.
Right.
But I think we've all, both the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board, have kind of certainly tried to go out of our way as much as we can to make sure we can address this problem.
Right.
This problem is, in an amicable process, recognizing the fact that it isn't tied to the overall design of the subdivision or the operation of the stormwater system there.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any other questions before we look to close this public hearing? All right, seeing none. Do I have a motion to close this public hearing at 6:36 p.m.?
So moved.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay. Mr. Andrade, was that you?
Make a motion to accept the roadway.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, seeing none. Mr. Healy, roll call.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew.
Okay, Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay, Ms. Banaka, there's still, understanding that there's still work to be done. You know, the things that were tying up the road acceptance itself, I think the general feeling is that the work is, Mr. DeValley's has done a lot on his end to help satisfy that. By all means, still want to make sure that we see seating and stuff that was committed and requested back in the fall, or we say the end of the fall as we were entering winter there. So that still would see its process through when we get to the spring at a better time of year. Mr. Aubin and the planning board would be the proper authority at this point to make sure that you follow up with them, as they still hold the surety from Mr. DeValley as he winds down that process.
Okay, thank you so much for your consideration and your help in all this. And Mr. Robin, thank you so much.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I just clarify the motion that was the vote that was just taken? Was it a vote to accept the or a positive recommendation for town meeting? Because this does have to go to town meeting.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that should have been the proper motion was for
Okay.
positive recommendation to go to town meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Item L. Set the date for the annual Springtown meeting for May 9th, 2022. Do I have a motion, Mr. Zora?
Make a motion that we have town meeting on May 9th, 2022.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Trina, aye.
Zora, aye.
David Andrew.
Justin Sullivan, aye.
And that's going to be 6 to, whenever. Is that starting at 6 p.m. that night?
7 p.m. usually starts.
7 p.m. Just for.
Yep. Okay, item M, consider opening the warrant for Springtown meeting with a closing date. That does not look right. Is that right? Yep. This is, all right, consider opening the warrant for Springtown meeting with a closing date of March 4th, 2022.
Make a motion that we open the Springtown warrant effective immediately with the closing date of March 4th, 2022.
Seconded, Adam Trina.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please. Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Madam Attorney, aye.
Azor, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item N, consider accepting the animal control officer's warrant. You
Make a
guys,
motion that we can accept the animal control officer's warrant as presented in the packet.
Seconded, Madam Attorney.
any discussion? Roll call, please. Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Madam Attorney, aye.
Azor, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Item O, consider the request to amend the host community agreement with Metro Harvest.
Mr. Chair, at this point, I'm going to abstain from the meeting. And I would just ask that someone please either text me or call me on my cell, as I'm going to just walk out of the room.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Andrade. All right. Do we have anybody from
So, Mr. Chairman,
Metro Harvest or the Mr.
LaBelle.
Kadim?
Mr. LaBelle was, did notify us that he might not be able to make it until 7. I'm not sure if the board would have questions, but I will give you an update on what's required. Before you is language that was in the host community agreement with regards to a transfer or a merger. So it does require the Board of Selectmen approve the merger aspects of this. And speaking with Mr. LaBelle, both Mr. LaBelle and his partner will remain on the license with a portion, and I forget exactly the percentage, roughly 80% going to Northeast Alternatives. They are a company who has a facility in Fall River and various other communities. I believe they have a grow facility being built in Lakeville. So the 2 members that were approved are still remaining on as partners, but they are merging with Northeast Alternatives. We did put a call into the CCC to see if they had any required approvals. We have not heard back from them. So if the board is in favor of moving forward and approving this, I would just say that the approval be subject to any required approvals from the CCC, just to make sure that we're covered.
Okay, Mr. Kadim, just a question. Was anybody from Northeast Alternatives contacted to be here this evening?
They were. So Mr. LaBelle was anticipating to be here. He just wasn't sure if he could make it before 7.
Not Mr. LaBelle from Metro, from Northeast Alternatives, the people he's merging with.
So the letter came from Mr. LaBelle, so I just assumed he was making the telephone calls and arrangements to have whoever he felt needed to be here.
So if you don't mind, I think quite honestly, in order to have a fruitful discussion here, obviously with Mr. LaBelle not present at this time, and quite honestly, I think, with the new applicant, that's looking to do business with Seekonk, and we're not sure if that they're going to be here for this meeting, if Mr. LaBelle's brought them, then I think we should probably postpone this particular article or this particular agenda item to the next, possibly the next meeting. I have to look at what that agenda is. But I would say possibly the next meeting, because I think, if there are questions by the members for the new applicant, then, it would not serve having just Mr. LaBelle here as well.
Could I just make a recommendation? I mean, we're about 15 minutes out from 7 o'clock, and I know we've got several items. Can we just, I guess, table this to the end? And if he's still not here by then we make the motion to table.
That's fine. We can do that.
Assuming that somebody from Northeast Alternative.
Yeah, if there's nobody from Northeast Alternatives, then I'm going to suggest that we wait until the next available meeting slot.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, fair enough. Are the members, you guys, okay with that?
We
Need a
only have
thumbs up.
minutes left for the reports, so, yeah. We could do the minutes and reports and then circle back.
If it happens, it happens. So, okay. Mr. Kadim, can you text Mr. Andrade real quick? Oh,
Doing that right now.
All right. Okay, Mr. Andrade.
How you doing?
Okay, good. So right now we're currently pending. Mr. LaBelle was not here, nor are we sure if he's going to have anybody from Northeast Alternatives with him. So as a result, we're just tabling it to see if he attends by the time we finish, then we can engage in the conversation. But if somebody from Northeast Alternatives is not with Mr. LaBelle, then we'll postpone this agenda item to the next available slot.
Okay.
Item P, consider accepting the minutes of February 2nd, 2022.
Chairman, I have read the minutes. I don't see anything that stands out. Pending any questions, I motion we accept the minutes as submitted. Madam Tronio.
Rosora, second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Madam Tronio, aye.
Rosora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye. Okay, thank you. Committee speaks. I don't think do we have anybody? You can hit the raise your hand function or *9. Okay, seeing none. Other business. Do you have anything, Mr. Kadim? Yeah.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Town Administrator's report.
Just on the South End Fire Station, we're out to bid right now for designer services. That should be closing up in the first week. We had roughly within the first week of going out to bid 22, 23 firms that were interested in the designer service aspects of the project. So that's good news. Just want to notify people in the community and folks watching this, or if they know anybody who may be interested, the police department will be holding a police exam on April 16th. Anybody interested in that could go to Public Safety Consultant LLC, their website. We'll have all the information regarding the test and how to apply for the test and be able to sit for the test coming forward. Again, that date was April 16th. And then I'll turn it over to the rest of the board members. I know Mr. Zorro will speak to probably the senior center.
All right. Thank you. All right, Board of Selectmen liaison reports and comments. Bristol County Advisory Board.
Nothing at this time, but at the end, Mr. Chairman, I do have something else I want to address.
Yes, sir. Aiken School Expansion Committee.
We do have a meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It will be on, it's not Zoom, it's another type of service. It is actually called, I believe, Team.
Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that's tomorrow at 6. That's all I have on that.
Okay. Thank you. 540 Arcade.
We held a kickoff meeting on lovely Valentine's Day Monday with some department heads and all the contractors involved, and they'll be going out to bid for the subcontractors, and we'll be rolling out as soon as we can. We're going to move forward full steam ahead.
Great. Board member comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Healy.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. One question. I've received several phone calls about our next upcoming meeting and why it's being held via Zoom. Just so we can explain it to the public, can you just go over that?
Yep, actually, I'm glad.
Everybody understands why. There's going to be another Zoom meeting, and people are asking because all the changes at the state level and, the school level and all that stuff. So just getting a lot of phone calls about it, just so there's no confusion. And it's not like we're, not willing to meet in public again, but if you could, thank you.
Nope, thank you. I was going to have a note here to make note of that. So gladly. The reason that the next meeting, March 2nd, is going to be in Zoom is because we have a public hearing. As a part of that public hearing, we have to advertise in the newspaper. At the time that we had to post for the advertisement in the newspaper, we were not certain as to where we were going to be from opening up town hall to the public and exactly where the numbers were. While they were looking good and improving, we just couldn't quite take that chance, particularly when posting for a public meeting. So what we ended up doing was for the March 2nd meeting, that we were gonna go do this as a Zoom. And then when we get to March 16th, that meeting, there'll be a public hearing for that meeting, but that will be our first meeting back in person. By that point, we felt comfortable that we were going to be back in person for sure. But given the timing on March 2nd, we weren't quite sure how that was going to work with the timing of reopening town hall. Because at the time we did not know if we were opening mid-February or the end of February or whatever. And there was too many variables. So we just needed to make sure that we were better safe than sorry on doing the public hearing for it. So that's why we're going to be Zoom on March 2nd. And we are anxiously awaiting to getting back in person on March 16th. Does that answer everything, Mr. Healy, you think? Got it?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Any other members have any other comments?
Not at this time. I'm all set.
All right, seeing none. I do see Mr. LaBelle has hopped on here.
Someone will be stepping out.
So, Mr. Andrade. Hey, Mr. Andrade. All right, never mind.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. All right, Mr. LaBelle, if you can unmute yourself.
I just did. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you. And do you have a representative with you from Northeast Alternatives today?
Yes, Rich Rozier is on, and our attorney, Adam Fine, as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, Mr. LaBelle, I'll give you an opportunity here to explain to the board and everybody what's transpiring here.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask Mr. LaBelle, is the attorney on with either yourself or Mr. Rozier?
No, he should be logging on himself, Adam
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, he's not on yet. I guess I'll just jump in when he's in.
Oh, okay. He should be in any second.
Yeah, I just want to let you know I didn't see him.
Let me just text him.
Steve, I can do that while you explain, while you go.
Okay. So we're trying, when we initially came in front of the board, we had an agreement with Northeast Alternatives to be our consultants. We have since decided that we'd like to merge with Northeast Alternatives. We're going to form a new entity. It's will be called Northeast Alternatives Retail. This is for tax purposes and capital in their experience. Instead of just being our consultants, we felt that we could team up with them and bring it to the next level. So that's the reason for the merger.
Okay. And the nature of the merger, Mr. Kadim had made mention that you are relinquishing controlling interest of the company?
Yes, Northeast will take 75% and Metro will retain 25%.
Okay. Where's Mr. Rozier? Okay, see, Mr. Rozier, who is going to be, based on this proposal here, who is going to be the active point of contact for the town of Seekonk working with your company?
I can be that person. I serve as the CFO and I'm a co-founder and have worked very closely with Fall River government officials on all fronts.
Okay, and if approved, would you be the individual that also be attending conservation meetings, planning meetings, zoning meetings, et cetera?
If I need to declare that now, I can be. Typically, Chris Harkins, the CEO and other co-founder, and I split those duties. So if the town needs one of us to be designated, I can serve in that capacity, but.
No, but I think it'd be, I don't think it has to be specifically just one of you, but if it's either or, well, maybe, just,
Yeah, that would be ideal.
we can designate both of you guys, that's fine, just that there's a point of contact here for the town.
That'd be great. Yeah, and I'll handle all things financials for sure. So Chris has more experience on the real estate and the development side, so he tends to go to, planning meetings and anything retail related. And obviously, as the CEO, he can also serve in an operational capacity. But I've worked closely with the finance and general counsel of the Fall River to make sure they're getting the host community fees on time, and we're reconciling our financials with them.
Okay. Very good. Do any members have any questions here for the gentleman from Mr. Rozier from Northeast or Mr. LaBelle?
And it looks like Adam he sent me a text saying he's on.
Yep, I see Adam here.
Okay.
And Adam, are you the lawyer? You're Steve's attorney or Rich's
Yeah,
attorney?
so I'm the kind of the joint venture. I'm attorney for Northeast Alternatives and also the new venture. So I'm happy to
Okay.
answer any questions, and I do apologize for being late.
No problem. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, I understand that we're still waiting on information per Mr. Kadim. We're still waiting on information from approvals, I guess, from the CCC. Do you have any additional information for that, Mr. Rozier?
Not at this time. The process would require us to secure the HCA first, and then we would look to have a change of control submitted. As you're aware, Metro Harvest has a provisional license currently that's operational. And so we would look to make that change. And then as we get closer to finalizing the construction build out, we would seek an inspection and being put on the public meeting agenda for final, and then ultimately commence operations.
Okay.
And that process would be the same regardless of whether it was Metro Harvest or this new entity. The one component that is obviously different is doing that change of control with the CCC. And Adam could speak to that. He's had a lot of experience with that.
Happy to answer any questions. It's a pretty perfunctory process. The commission just wants to be aware of any kind of changes in structure, capital structure, for whatever reason. So we'll go through that process, which we would run in parallel to as best we can, so we can get the project open as quickly as possible.
I think one of the other components that you might be interested in that's really important in this is that, as you may be aware, the CCC has a cap on any individual owning more than 5% of any entity that is a cannabis operator. And so no entity, let's put it that way, in Massachusetts can own more than 6 retail licenses, 3 on the adult use and 3 on the medical side. So in this particular case, Northeast Alternatives only has 1 retail, and so we won't raise any red flags or have any problems with the CCC by adding this second, because we technically could have upwards of 6 with 3 medical and 3 retail.
So you currently have a medical license?
Yeah, the Fall River entity is what they call co-located. So we serve both patients and recreational consumers.
Did that require only the 1 license, or is that 2?
No, you need we first had what they refer to as an RMD license, registered medical facility, and that you were required to be vertically integrated. So we got that license and we opened for medical in June of 2018. And then when recreational was allowed, we applied and we were the 7th to get a license on the recreational, and we opened in January of 19 with that license. So we actually have technically six licenses, but they're all, only 1 retail for medical, 1 retail for rec, 1 retail for medical, and then the other 4 have to do with product manufacturing for medical and rec, and cultivation for a medical and rec. And there isn't a cap on those.
So is it 2 manufacturing, 2 cultivation? Or is it?
Well, and we also have a provisional currently for a cultivation in Lakeville.
Yeah, just to sum up, there's a cap on each license type is a cap of 3. So
Yep.
on the retail
Yep.
side, for both medical and adult use, it's 3 and 3. So Rich is absolutely spot on that.
I just want to just see the size through the licenses of what you're managing, because I know that there's like, was it 5 different licenses or 6 for this whole thing? I've learned more about this than I ever wanted to know. So yes, so this would make 2 recreational and a medical towards
Correct.
that 6 cap.
Correct.
Or 3 and 3. Got it.
Correct.
I am tracking that. I can do higher math.
There you
So you have experience in doing this. Through you, Mr. Chairman, refresh my memory. When I think the HCA agreement with Metro Office I think that was done before we voted on it when I was newly elected. I remember, but I think that might have been done before I came on the board.
Yeah, we're going back to about 2019 when we originally first kind of agreed on that. So
Yeah, the effective date was the 7th of August, 2019.
So with Northeast, assuming the lead for all and majority for all intents and purposes, they are going to assume all of the agreements in that original HCA, or?
yes, that's the idea on this, is that we could effectively, renegotiate it, but I don't think it's in the town's interest or this particular situation's interest to renegotiate this. I think it's, they take over the HCA as previously agreed upon with Metro Harvest and Mr. LaBelle.
Was there any requirement of Metro Harvest in submittal process that maybe town administrator could perhaps answer this, that, we're waiting on paperwork, I'm assuming at this point. It's all administrative, I get that. I just want to make sure that we've gotten what we need in order to make the informed decision through the town, the exact same way that Metro Harvest has submitted.
Not sure what you...
Yeah, so there's an HCA, they're looking to merge, so there's no documents that
No additional, okay. I trying to find hidden truth, that's all.
Yeah, all we're waiting on, as Mr. Kadim said, all we were waiting on was information from the CCC. So any approval tonight would come with the condition upon any approvals from the CCC. So.
And my
Adam,
final question,
Mr. Kadim, yep. I'm sorry, Mr. Kadim, I meant Mr. Petronio.
Yeah. So my final question would be, obviously we're waiting on CCC. Do we have to have any legal review? Have we had legal review on this before?
No, to my knowledge here, which is why I asked to have the excerpt from the agreement sent out to you all in terms of how what's supposed to transpire with the transfers.
Yep.
And what would constitute the legality behind doing so.
Yeah, and if I could just elaborate, so the HCA was reviewed, the original HCA was reviewed and drafted by KP Law for obviously our town council. So the section that we're referencing, obviously they're fully aware. Once I received the letter, I did reach out to Joe Fair just to double check that we didn't need any additional information other than the board taking a formal vote. And then we also just double checked with them to make sure there weren't any additional requirements that we needed to know about with regards to the CCC.
Yep, that answered my question.
Okay. Are there any other questions from any Board of Selectmen members? Mr. Healy, you're good? Okay, Mr. Zora? All right. Do any of you gentlemen from either Northeast or Mr. LaBelle, do you guys have anything else you'd like to add before we take a vote?
I'm all set.
Okay. Do I have a motion? So you have a motion to approve, to amend the host community agreement with Metro Harvest to name Northeast Alternatives Retail as the new retail partner, with the merger being 75-25. And they'll be the active participant with the town, with Mr. Rich Rozier, and I'm sorry, what's Chris's last name?
Harkins, Harkins.
Chris Harkins being points of contact for the town of Seekonk, and all of this, and this would also be conditional upon approval by the CCC.
And it would be called, it wouldn't be called Metro Harvest again, it would be called what, Northeast what?
Yeah,
Northeast Alternatives Retail is what I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're correct. If you could add just LLC to the end of that, sorry.
LLC.
That's fine. LLC. Okay.
And more than likely, if the question had to do with doing business as, we would do business as Northeast Alternatives.
Okay.
The dispensary would be the same name as what we use in Fall River.
Okay. All right, so.
So moved, Adam.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Chris Zora.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please. Mr. Healy.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Tronio, aye.
Chris Zora, aye.
Justin Sullivan, aye, and make a note that David Andrade
Abstain.
has abstained. Okay, gentlemen, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we should sign off now, correct?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome back, Mr. Andrade.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, assuming there's nothing else, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session 2A. Item A, to discuss the deployment of or strategy regarding security personnel or devices pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A4, as having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to the negotiating position of the town. Item B, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Seekonk Firefighters Union, IAFF Local 1931 per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A3, is having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item C, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A3, Veronica Brickley versus Town of Seekonk et al., MCAD, docket number 21 NEM 02915, EEOC docket number 16-2022-00571, is having a discussion in open session will be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item D, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Deputy Police Chief per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A2, is having a discussion in open session will be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item E, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Director of Parks and Recreation per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A2, as having a discussion in open session will be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item F, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the administrative assistant to the town administrator per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A2, is having a discussion in open session will be detrimental to litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item G, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to negotiations with the Director of Public Works per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A2, is having a discussion in open session will be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. Item H, to conduct strategy sessions with respect to the negotiations with the town administrator per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, subsection 21A2, as having a discussion in open session would be detrimental to the litigation or bargaining position of the town. And item I, to act under the authority of the open meeting law, general laws, Chapter 38, subsection 22F and subsection 22G, and review and approve the executive session minutes of January 19th, 2022, pursuant to general law, Chapter 38, section 21A7.
So moved.
So move. Second, Chryzora.
Okay, roll call, please.
Michael Healy, aye.
Adam Petroni, aye.
Chryzora, aye.
David Andrew, aye.
And Sullivan, aye. Good